are strengthened. That's what we would like to see. So now, shifting gears, I would like to talk. I was just checking my time, Mr. Speaker, because I believe I may be running out of time. I have 2 minutes. So actually, I don't even have 2 minutes. So what I will say, Mr. Speaker, is I am so happy that we are here today talking about the economy and the impacts in our communities, and we need to keep having these discussions. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary will have 2 minutes upon returning from question period when we take this up again. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The Honourable Member for Cumberland, Colchester. Oh, there she is.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In a province that once experienced the biggest explosion on Canadian soil, the Halifax explosion, residents of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia just recently were rocked by a 2.6 magnitude earthquake which shook homes and sounded like an explosion or a cannon being fired. Thankfully, there were no injuries. But, Mr. Speaker, the number one continuity safety issue for emergency preparedness is geographic separation and redundancy in communications. So, the recent earthquake is a prime example of why it's not wise to put all our eggs in one basket, which is what the RCMP are proposing to do if they move the 911 call center from Truro to Dartmouth. The rationale for this move seems less about safety and more about the fact that the RCMP moved into a headquarters that's too big for their needs. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness to reconsider this action and protect the 100-kilometer geographic separation of these facilities for the safety and protection of all Nova Scotia.
Honorable député de Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord.
Mr. Speaker, number 16. A giant figure in hockey, Henry, left us. He was a winner. He has a record that will probably never be equaled or beaten. He was a leader. He led by example. He made sacrifices and took care of his teammates. He had a great heart, and he realized his dream of playing with his big brother when he was only 19 years old, and he played for 20 years. He wanted to win. He went to go get the puck no matter what and let no opponent block him. He was a mentor and a model for a generation, demonstrating that being true to oneself and using all of one's energy makes everything possible. The National Hockey League, the Canadians, and the Habs, and Canada are losing a great ambassador. His memory will mark the history of sport and Canada. My colleagues wish to extend our sincerest condolences to his whole family. Mr. Henri Richard, thank you for all the great moments and this great history. The Honourable Member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges.
Brenda O'Farrell, Rob Dumas, Craig and Brent Nolan, Ken Bell, and the entire team at Soulanges Irish Society. Our community of Vaudreuil-Soulanges becomes Irish for a day at the annual St. Patrick's Day Parade in Hudson. This year, the parade will be led by Grand Marshal, renowned sports broadcaster Mitch Melnick, and will feature Irishman of the Year Ken Doran, Parade Queen Emma Gauthier, Princesses Chris Walsh and Robin Broderick, and Reviewing Officer Mitch Gallo. As always, Mr. Speaker, it's an event not to be missed. So on Saturday, March 21st at 1 p.m., come one, come all to Main Street, sporting bright, green, anything to celebrate rich Irish culture and heritage, and let's make the 11th annual St. Patrick's Day Parade one to remember. Sláinte, Mr. Speaker. Cheers.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. After 29 days of railway blockades, the Kanawakis barricade is finally down. I would like to seize this opportunity to highlight the extraordinary resilience of the citizens of La Prairie, Saint-Philippe, Saint-Mathieu, Candiac, Delson, Saint-Constant, and Sainte-Catherine. Over 3,000 people were deprived of their means of transportation every single day. I would also like to congratulate the Roussillon Police Service under the leadership of Marc Rodier, with whom we have worked exceptionally well as the mayors of my riding. I must also call attention to the great work accomplished by EXO, an organization that serves the outlying areas rail service, With creative emergency measures, EXO's team was able to ensure daily transportation by bus in spite of many obstacles. Let's hope, Mr. Speaker, that the Prime Minister will fully recognize these efforts and will compensate EXO for the $1.2 million additional dollars spent to ensure the service for this unfortunate crisis for which he is responsible.
Hill.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to rise today, as today marks the official tabling of my private member's motion 36, calling for the designation of August 1st as Emancipation Day in Canada. This motion calls for the House to recognize the abolition of slavery that occurred within the British Empire on August 1st of 1834. Acknowledge the history of slavery in Canada and other Commonwealth countries prior to that point, as well as recognize the significance that August 1st holds as a historic celebration of freedom among abolitionists and emancipated settlers in Canada. Mr. Speaker, I call upon my all colleagues in this House to vote in favor of designating August 1st of every year as Emancipation Day throughout our wonderful nation, and to honor the important contribution of Canadians of African and Caribbean descent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bravo.
The honourable member for Medicine Hat, Carson Warner.
Mr. Speaker, our current Prime Minister has had a deep, deep impact on Canada. In this Prime Minister's Canada, if it earns, he taxes it. If it moves, he regulates it. If it fails, he buys it. If it's government, he grows it. If it's Albertan, he blocks it. If it protests, he funds it. If it blockades, he enables it. If it's addictive, he legalizes it. If it's criminal, he coddles it. If it's a victim, he ignores it. If it farms, he takes from it. If it's a victim, he ignores it, as I said. If it follows the law, he punishes it. If it's guilty, he denies it. If it speaks truth, he removes it. If it offends, he prohibits it. If it's a veteran, he forgets it. And when the Prime Minister doesn't know what to do, Mr. Speaker, which happens regularly, he either dithers or blames others. And just to be clear, that deep impact I was speaking about earlier, Mr. Speaker, it's ruining our Canada.
The member for Scarborough Rouge Park.
I rise today to stand in solidarity with all teachers in Ontario. Teachers shape the leaders of tomorrow. They fill our students with confidence, courage, and knowledge necessary to chase their dreams, become their best selves, and achieve their truest potential. Teaching doesn't start and stop when the school bell rings. Our teachers spend their evenings and weekends going above and beyond to learn the unique needs of their students, make difficult subjects relatable, and transform the classroom into a welcoming place for all. Our teachers further enrich our communities as coaches, mentors, therapists, and friends. Some teachers, Mr. Speaker, even go on to become Prime Minister. Our teachers across the province raise their collective voice in order to protect class sizes, ensure students with special needs have access to quality learning opportunities, and keep our children learning in the classroom. I want to let them know that we are in full support of their movement. Thank you to all the teachers as they continue to make our country a better place, one mind at a time.
Hear, hear. Well done.
The honourable member for Etobicoke North.
Mr. Speaker, March 8th is International Women's Day, a time to celebrate the achievements of women in our communities and right across Canada. We recognize our grandmothers, mothers, aunts, sisters, and advocates who have worked tirelessly to advance the rights of women. Yet women continue to face discrimination, harassment, gender-based violence, a lack of opportunity and support. That's why our government has made advancing gender equality a top priority. We have provided new funding for women entrepreneurs, newcomer women, and women in trades, and launched the first ever national strategy to prevent and address gender violence. Everyone has a role to play in achieving gender equality. And so today and every day, let's celebrate women's contributions, stand up for women's rights, and listen to women's voices. Together we can build a world where all women and girls are free to pursue their dreams and reach their full potential.
The honourable member for Edmonton Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, today is Commonwealth Day. As many people might know, Edmonton has a strong connection to the Commonwealth. We once hosted a very successful Commonwealth Games in 1978.
You did.
The legacy from that includes the city's first leg of its light rail transit line and the nearly 60,000-seat Commonwealth Stadium, home of the legendary Edmonton Eskimos. That stadium's actually located in my Edmonton-Griesbach riding. I'm also proud to be involved in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. I'm an elected executive member of the Canadian branch. I've built some strong relationships through my work and travel with that association. And speaking of Commonwealth relationships, the most important one, of course, is with my amazing wife, Claire Denman, who just happens to be from England. I look forward to seeing many parliamentary colleagues at an event tonight in West Block to celebrate Canada's membership in the Commonwealth. Today, let's wish all citizens of Commonwealth countries a very happy Commonwealth Day.
Order. I just want to remind everyone that there are people making statements, and we want to make sure that everyone can hear them because they're wonderful statements. The Honourable Member for Avalon.
Mr. Speaker, it's a tale as old as time, Alberta and Newfoundland and Labrador. Usually a story of two friends. However, last night it was a battle of the rocks of the rings for the 2020 Tim Hortons Brier. Team Gushue, Olympic gold medalist, two-time world champion, three-time Brier winner, and the pride of the Rock, took home the 2020 Brier in a nearly perfect 7-3 win over Team Alberta. Mark Nichols, Brett Gallant, Jeff Walker, and our boy Brad Gushue brought home the Brier Cup to where it rightfully belongs, settling yet another rivalry once and for all. As we watched from home, the crowd cheering and celebrating along with the team in Kingston, Ontario last night, you could have sworn they were back home at Mall 1 Stadium in St. John's with their hometown crowd. Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are proud to be a part of Team Gushue, and we are certainly proud to call you our own. Congratulations and hurry home. And as always, hurry, hurry, hurry!
The Honourable Member for Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, no one should have to imagine what it would feel like to try to breathe while underwater. But for Canadians living with cystic fibrosis, this is a daily reality. But there is hope. Trikafta has been approved in the United States and is showing remarkable results for those Americans living with cystic fibrosis. But it's not approved in Canada. It's not approved in Canada because of changes that the Liberal government made to the Patented Medicines Price Review Board. Last week I met with families who are living with cystic fibrosis, and the words of one young woman really struck home. She said very simply, "I want to live. I want to see my son grow up." Mr. Speaker, this Minister of Health needs to do the right thing. She needs to put down her talking points, set aside her partisanship, and work with the manufacturer to get Trikafta approved in Canada. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are counting on us. Let us not be the Parliament that fails to act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday we celebrated International Women's Day. I was honored to attend an event celebrating Sikh women in Calgary. I want to thank the Sikh Society of Calgary for hosting such a wonderful event. It was important to pay homage and to celebrate women's contributions to our community and across the country. I'm pleased to be the Deputy Shadow Minister for Women and Gender Equality. We know we still have a long way to go to achieve true gender equality. The first steps to achieving this begins in our homes. We can do this by encouraging and supporting the women and girls in our lives to succeed, to not let any obstacles society may have created for them prevent them from achieving their full potential. As we move forward, let's celebrate and remember all the strong women in our lives, our mothers, sisters, daughters, and support them in achieving their goals. Let's remember this momentum and carry it with us all year long. Because when women succeed, all Canadians benefit. Happy International Women's Day today and every day.
The Honourable Member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday was International Women's Day, and while we celebrated gains that have been made, there is still much work left to do. Work to eradicate barriers to women's full economic, social, and political participation in our society. Work to enact pay equity legislation, an affordable national universal child care program, as well as affordable housing. Work to address violence against women and reject all restrictions on women's reproductive rights. Work to improve the lives of Indigenous women and girls by enacting the calls for justice, all the calls for justice. Work to address the specific challenges faced by women of color, members from the LGBTQI2S+, and the disability community. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, this is a long list. But every woman deserves fairness, affordability, and equal opportunity, to be valued and free to live without fear. The work to achieve these goals must never stop, and so neither will we. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, March 1st, 1695, 325 years ago, Governor Frontenac conceded a fourth seigneury on the shores of the Richelieu River to a soldier, François Hertel de la Fresnière, to thank him for his good and loyal service. After taking on several different names, including Saint-François-le-Neuf, Saint-Louis, and the village des Battes, the seigneury would finally be renamed Saint-Charles-sur-Richelieu, a quintessential patriotic village. That's where there was a famous Six Ridings Assembly, October 23rd, 1837, where thousands of patriots were assembled to hear from great figures of our history. These days, this village is a paradise where families can find a great place to live. Its land is still mainly used for agriculture, as well as being an anchor for our deeply valued heritage. On this very special year, I would like to wish the 1,700 inhabitants of St. Charles great celebrations.
Mr. Speaker, Alberta has always been a leader on environmental innovation and stewardship. In Canada, Alberta has the most environmentally protected heritage sites and is the first to have an environment minister for almost 5 decades, the largest connected green space since the 70s, a commercial wind farm for nearly 3 decades, and has the largest approved solar farm. Alberta leads North America with the first and only renewable LRT system for nearly a decade, and the first to pass climate change laws to report and set emissions reductions targets and levy heavy emitters almost 15 years ago. And globally, Alberta is the first to turn garbage into biofuels, has the largest carbon capture project, and produces the most environmentally and socially responsible oil and gas in the world. And that's just a snapshot. Albertans are environmental trailblazers. All of that and so many other reasons is why a strong Alberta is a strong Canada.
The Honourable Member for Orleans. We're celebrating the month of the Francophonie this month. On March 2nd, I participated in the launch of Rendez-vous de la Francophonie. This year's theme is At the Heart of Change. It was a pleasure to discuss change in all its forms with the students of Le Prélude and the Collège Mer Bleue. March 8th was International Women's Day. I'd like to seize the opportunity to thank all Canadian women for their passion, dedication, and positive impact they have on our society. I also had the privilege of celebrating, a little more locally, this day with women of Orleans on March 6th. 150 of them joined me at the HoC kitchen. Afterwards, I participated in a ceremony to award 46 exceptional women and girls the Recognition Award for women and girls who are leaders in Orleans. Congratulations to all.
Oral questions, question orale. The Honourable Member for Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is on the brink of a recession, but this government pretends that everything is fine. Canadian stocks are crashing with the biggest drop since 1987. For every dollar Canadian households bring in, they have $1.75 in consumer debt. Unemployment is higher than most G7 countries, and 76% of Canadians are worried about losing their job. If the government won't accept that there's a problem, how will they ever work to fix it? When will this government abandon its failed economic policies and change course?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the coronavirus is having a serious impact on the global economy and on the Canadian economy. Canada's strong fiscal position means we have the firepower to support our economy, and we will. Measures we take will include, but not be limited to, supporting workers and parents who have to miss work in order to prevent the spread of the virus, supporting our excellent healthcare system. We are prepared to act, and we are.
The honourable member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Our fiscal position is not strong, and Canada's economy was grinding to a halt well before the coronavirus and the rail blockades. This government's weak leadership and failed economic approach has created a crisis in confidence for companies wanting to invest and grow in Canada. Even Berkshire Hathaway, one of the most influential investment firms, is abandoning an energy project in Quebec because of the political instability created by this Prime Minister. When will this government stop blaming everyone else and take responsibility for their role in the coming recession?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are very aware of the GNL Quebec project, and let me say very clearly, our government believes in the natural resources sector, and we are working hard to support workers in the sector and investment. Over 400 major resource projects are planned or under construction in Canada. This is up from the previous year, and it includes the largest private sector investment in Canadian history, LNG Canada, which is strongly supported by this government.
For Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, our economy is in trouble, and it's getting worse in all our key sectors. Energy projects are being abandoned. Mining investment is fleeing Canada, automotive plants are being closed, and aerospace revenue is in decline. But the government's failure to provide stability and security has sent a clear message that Canada is closed for business. What is this Prime Minister's plan to stop 6 years of eroding Canada's economic foundation?
What's the plan? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite has cited some sectors which are indeed facing difficulties as a direct result of the impact of the coronavirus on the global economy and on the Canadian economy. Let me be very clear.
I just want to remind the honourable members that interrupting someone when they're speaking is really a lack of respect, and it's something we want to bring back to the chamber, and it's up to all of us to do that. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Let me be clear, Mr. Speaker. As Canada faces this serious challenge to public health and also to our economy, our government will be focused on working together with all Canadians to respond to this challenge and not on taking cheap partisan shots.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, since we've had this government, we've seen 200,000 energy sector workers lose their jobs. We're talking about more than 7 projects that were abandoned and millions in investments that have evaporated. That's what's happening in Western Canada. But now we've seen Quebec affected with the GNL project abandoned. So it's because of political instability of this government that these big projects are no longer welcome in Canada. How can this government defend its horrible track record in terms of Canadians and jobs? The Right Honourable Deputy Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government is working with the resource sector to create good jobs and to attract investment, and that's a priority. More than 400 big resource projects are planned or are underway in Canada. That's more than last year. And this includes the largest investment in the private sector of the Canadian history, and our government supports this strongly. The member for Louis Saint Laurent. The Deputy Prime Minister should talk to her friends from Heritage Canada. They should be happy to learn that the GNL project for Lac Saint Jean was aborted because of the policies of this government, because they let the rail crisis drag on for more than 4 weeks. And investors across the globe are saying there's no room for big projects in Canada. What is this government going to do to rectify the situation? The Honourable Deputy Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would like to underscore once again that the natural resource sector is a priority for our government. We understand that this sector creates a lot of good jobs across the country. We're working with large investors. And I'd like to also stress that the largest projects in the private sector in Canada's history is LNG Canada, and our government supports it strongly. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, after 1 month, the Kanawaki barricade was removed, but this doesn't mean the crisis is over yet. Today, the government has to accept the consequences of its lack of leadership on this file. In my riding, EXO spent more than $1 million to try and replace a suburban train. Manufacturers and exporters in Quebec lost between $20,000 and $50,000 per day, Mr. Speaker. Our companies paid a high price. Is this government going to present a plan to compensate the collateral victims of this railway crisis? The Honourable Deputy Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know that the blockades did have a very real impact on Canadians, including Quebecers. We had to find a peaceful and lasting solution. I'd also like to stress that through dialogue, we reached a temporary agreement with the Wet'suwet'en. And that's a good thing for all Canadians. All the blockades were taken down and the rail services were restored. And that's also a good thing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
De la Prairie.
Honourable Member for La Prairie. Well, we haven't started even dealing with the fallout of this crisis, and now we're facing a new issue, the coronavirus. It's the same government that controls the borders. It's this government that controls our airports. It's this government that is responsible for preventing the coronavirus from entering our country. And we should be concerned. Last week, the Customs Union sounded the alarm. They're left to their own devices to detect people carrying the virus. Imagine that. The government messed up in the handling of the rail crisis. Everyone knows this. Does it realize that there's no room for failure with the coronavirus? The Honourable Deputy Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for this important question. Allow me to start by saying that there is a global approach our government is taking. What experts are saying is that this situation may get worse before it gets better in Canada and across the world. Our government will do everything in its power to ensure the safety of Canadians and to maintain our strong economy.
For Burnaby South.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. People are deeply worried about the spread of the coronavirus, and they want to do their part. Now, the Liberal government has suggested that people who might be infected should self-quarantine and stay at home from work. That's very difficult for a worker who doesn't have sick leave. How are they going to pay the bills? How will they make that difficult decision? Donc, les gens veulent...
So people want to do their share to stop the spread of the coronavirus, but if they don't have sick leave, they can't do so. Is the government going to help people out and allow them to stay home? The Honourable Deputy Minister.
We will. We know that we must support Canadians who may not be able to work because of illness or quarantine. We have already reduced the EI waiting period from 2 weeks to 1 week, and we are committed to extending EI benefits to 26 weeks. We are planning for worst-case scenarios, as is prudent and correct for our government to do, and we are preparing further measures to support Canadian workers and our economy.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Experts in health are concerned. They're concerned that our health system cannot respond to a crisis that is caused by the coronavirus.
Given the fact that for decades, both Liberal and Conservative governments have been cutting funding to healthcare. Now, to support the crisis potentially as it increases, will the Prime Minister commit to reversing the Harper-era cuts and properly fund our healthcare system?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I was at Sunnybrook Hospital on Friday, and I must say I was so impressed by the hard work, the intelligence, and the dedication of the healthcare professionals I met there. Our federal government will not hesitate to support Canada's healthcare system as necessary during this situation, and we are already engaged in bulk procurement efforts. This is not a time to quibble about federal and provincial responsibilities. This is a time to work together, as we are doing.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Quand le soleil brille.
When the sun shines, homeowners who are responsible repair their roofs, they strengthen their foundations, and they fill the shelves in preparation for the winter that's upcoming. This government took these sunny days and wasted these times and prevented investments, and now we have a leaky roof, we have a cracked foundation, and the cupboards are empty. So what's their plan now? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Please warn me to never let anything as petty as the cold hard facts get in the way of a good story. And it sounds like the Honourable Member has been speaking to my grandfather. Mr. Speaker, when I actually look at the argument he makes, it rests on false pretenses. Over the past few years, we've made investments in the Canadian economy that have seen 1.2 million jobs added, including more than 30,000 in the past months alone. We've also seen more than 1 million people lifted out of poverty. And if he doesn't want to take my word for it, I'd direct him to the report of the Parliamentary Budget Officer, who confirmed that we have enough space in our budget to respond with the firepower we need in the event of a downturn. These things don't happen by accident. They happen because we've been putting measures in place to grow the economy and support Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, the Honourable Member sounds like he had a wonderful and wise grandfather to whom he should have listened. His grandfather would have advised to fill up the cupboards with supplies for a rainy day, to repair the roof and the foundation for the storm that inevitably comes. But instead, they added almost $100 billion of new debt. They ground economic growth to 0.3%. They shut down $150 billion worth of projects, all before the coronavirus problem even began. How could they have left common sense behind and made us so weak and vulnerable?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I find it fascinating that the Honourable Member has a newfound interest in debts and economic growth. If you look at the record, while he was sitting around the cabinet table in the previous government, they added $150 billion to our nation's debt and had the lowest rate of economic growth since the Great Depression. Mr. Speaker, I couldn't make this stuff up. Through the measures that we put in place, we have seen more than 1.2 million jobs added to the Canadian economy, more than 1 million people lifted out of poverty, including 300,000 kids, and we now have the healthiest balance sheet in the G7. Mr. Speaker, this is what success looks like. I'd invite the Honourable Member to take a look and enjoy.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
The member says he couldn't make this stuff up. He underestimates himself. You know, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that he brought up our record, because in the first 2 years after we took office, we did what his grandfather would have done. We paid off $40 billion of debt to prepare for the crisis that we knew would one day come. And as a result, we had a buffer. We were prepared, and we had the strongest economy in the G7 through the great globalization.
I just thought we started off so well. And I'm not going to choose one side or the other, but I just want order. As we sit here, As we sit here today, I want you to think about what your grandparents would think of you sitting in this room. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le Sorry.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Got lost in grandparenthood there.
I'd be sorely disappointed if I didn't get the chance to respond. He turns 99 in May, Mr. Speaker, and he's one of the few people I know who personally witnessed a government with a slower rate of economic growth than the Conservatives under Stephen Harper. Mr. Speaker, the fact remains we have the healthiest balance sheet of any G7 economy. This is because we've been investing in measures that create economic growth, and we've been putting in place policies that actually make sure that ordinary Canadians benefit from that growth. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue on a path to deal with the very serious challenges facing the Canadian economy, but we're going to work towards achieving economic growth and growth that works for everyone.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le Mr. Speaker, last Thursday we learned that Berkshire Hathaway, which was considering a hefty $4 billion investment in the Quebec LNG project, withdrew. The fund chose Quebec LNG amongst over 100 LNG projects worldwide, and the Prime Minister is creating unprecedented uncertainty in Canada. What does he plan to do to bring back the some $200 billion in lost financing for natural resource projects? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Our government is committed to working with the resource sector to ensure the best projects are undertaken, and we're looking for cleaner projects and sustainable ones. So we understand that GNL Quebec plans to continue the evaluation project, and it's seeking new investments for its proposed project. The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le Mr. Speaker, GNL Quebec is another project that adds to the list of projects that were sabotaged by the Liberal government. Yet this was a green project that fit with the global energy transition, that represented $870 million in economic benefits and $110 million in government revenues and 1,100 direct and indirect jobs. What can the PM tell people of Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, most of whom support this project? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. The project is currently part of a federal evaluation under the Canadian Environmental Act from 2012. And their government established this system. And I'm convinced that this rigorous process will deliver a result that will show all Canadians that if the project should move forward, well, that will be a decision that our cabinet will make.
Mr. Speaker, another major investor has had enough of the Liberals' job-killing policies. Warren Buffett withdrew his promised $4 billion investment in a natural gas pipeline in Quebec. As one media outlet stated, Buffett realizes he can't rely on a stable investment or regulatory environment, so he is walking away. He won't be alone, and regular Canadians will be hurt by a lack of jobs. Will the Liberals finally admit that they are the problem, or will they continue to kill jobs and investment in Canada that we so desperately need?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to working with the resource sector, ensure that jobs are created for Canadians from coast to coast to coast, and while at the same time we protect our environment. It's what Canadians expect from our government. Now, we know that investors all around the world are looking for projects that find that balance between economic growth and giving them a return on their investment, while also putting in place sustainable methods by which to do that. We've also heard the good news that the evaluation will move forward while GNL Quebec looks for other investors, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Avignon-Matapédia. The economic impact from the rail crisis is major in eastern Quebec. The Gaspé Rail Society hasn't taken full stock of the situation yet, but it already knows that the losses exceed $500,000. The Chamber of Commerce from Baie des Chaleurs sounded the alarm, and it's concerned that it could take months for things to return to normal. Months. Last Thursday, the Chamber of Commerce asked for federal assistance, and it's this lack of leadership from the federal government that prolonged the rail crisis. What is this government going to do to compensate companies for their losses? The Honourable Minister of Transportation, I'd like to thank my colleague, and we believe in our government that's important to follow a process that is focuses on reconciliation. That's what we did. Of course, it's regrettable that there was a rail blockade. We worked really hard day and night to solve the situation, and I'm happy to see that the rail services have resumed across the country. The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, coronavirus is spreading everywhere in Asia, Europe, in North America, and the government must be ready to face a global crisis. It's good. They've established a crisis unit, but we have to piece together bits of information from here and there to obtain a global picture. Will this government show some transparency and avail its full contingency plan once and for all?
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the member's question. As the member knows, we've been working on this issue since Dr. Tam identified the very small cluster in Wuhan late December. We've been working with all members in this House, offering briefings as they're available. We'll continue to make ourselves available so that they can understand the rapidly changing situation with COVID-19. I will reassure the member that we are also working at all levels with provinces, territories, and other jurisdictions, including the local public health unit level, to make sure that our systems are prepared, that we know what we need, and that we can handle any surge that may face us. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, the coronavirus is spreading more and more, and the term pandemic, which seemed premature just a few days ago, is now becoming the appropriate term. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, we're talking about an increase of 19,000% of cases in Europe in just a few weeks. To reassure Canadians, it takes leadership from the Prime Minister. It takes transparency. It takes an action plan. After how many cases will we finally see the contingency plan? The Honourable Minister of Health.
Very much, Mr. Speaker, and as the member knows, we've been working on this since we first identified those small clusters of atypical pneumonia in Wuhan in late December. As the member opposite notes, we have formed a special committee on COVID-19 to make sure that we are fully appraised of the whole of government approach. We have scenario planning that's underway so that we can understand how it will impact the various different components that, as we can see around the world, are being impacted by disruption. Mr. Speaker, the health and safety of Canadians is of top priority for us, and we will do everything in our power to keep them that safe and well. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker, several countries are starting to describe COVID-19 as a global pandemic. Right now, most developed countries have already taken measures for travellers. But here in Canada, there are no restrictions or controls in place for those entering the country. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister of Public Safety. Does he plan to restrict travellers from China, Iran, or Italy from entering Canada? The Honourable Minister of Health.
And that question indicates that more briefing is required for that member to let him know, in fact, exactly what is happening at the borders. In fact, we have been carefully screening travelers from a variety of countries based on expert advice from the World Health Organization and many other medical professionals that indicate to us the best effort is to assure that we are asking travelers at the border to identify themselves if they've traveled from specific regions. There are special questions on the kiosk, Mr. Speaker. If that traveler is unwell, Mr. Speaker, they are referred to public health and the local public health authorities. The member should apprise himself of the measures that are...
Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Hospitals across the country have been warning this government that there's a shortage of masks, protective equipment, and beds. However, according to the minister's health officials, the health system is well prepared to deal with the growing number of COVID-19 cases in Canada. Now, finally, 6 weeks after the confirmed case in Canada, and now just after the first death in British Columbia, the Prime Minister has asked provinces for their state of readiness. Why is the minister saying the government is well prepared when she's only asking provinces for their state of readiness today?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I must say it is deeply saddening to hear the news out of British Columbia where we have heard that our first patient of coronavirus has passed away in Canada, and I know that we all send our condolences to the family. I will say, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's letter follows the one that I sent to my counterparts not long ago, also requesting that they put on paper exactly where they think they are going to have shortages. We have received several responses from provinces and territories in terms of what kinds of needs they might have. We're working very closely with them to make sure that we can provide them with the resources, whether it is equipment, whether it is financial resources, and we will be there for provinces and territories, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Riverbend.
COVID-19 pandemic is a Canadian issue. We know that almost all confirmed cases have been from those entering Canada from high-risk areas, yet this government continues to claim that the problem is not at our borders. Is the minister prepared to enforce the Quarantine Act and issue measures such as mandatory quarantine from those entering from high-risk areas?
The Minister of Health.
I encourage the member opposite to review the Quarantine Act, and he will see that, in fact, we've been using it extensively. When we ask people to self-isolate from affected regions for 14 days, it requires a mandatory check-in with public health, which then actually continues to actually confirm that that person is complying with the self-isolation practices that are necessary. Mr. Speaker, we know that this virus knows no borders. We are very aware and alive to the supports that we need to provide at the local level so they can continue their excellent work in containing this illness and mitigating the effect on Canadians. Thank you very much.
Honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, this government assured Canadians our health system is well prepared to deal with the COVID-19 outbreak. But Healthcare Can, the advocacy group for Canada's hospitals, is warning our system is stretched too thin, with dangerous shortages of critical care beds and protective equipment. They're calling for increased federal funding and much more testing. Today we heard the first death from the virus in BC was confirmed, and we know things will get worse before they get better. Will the Liberals ensure hospitals have the resources they need to respond to COVID-19?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, the simple answer is yes. That's the work that we're conducting right now with provinces and territories to make sure that they have the capacity, should they see a surge of illness in their communities that require increased hospitalization. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals keep saying they care about a nation-to-nation relationship, but as we face a potential coronavirus outbreak, they've turned their back on First Nations and Inuit again. Mr. Speaker, when the H1N1 crisis hit, Indigenous nations asked for help, but the government sent body bags instead. Lives are at risk. So will the Prime Minister admit he was wrong and reverse his decision to exclude the Minister of Indigenous Service from the COVID-19 committee?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Indigenous Services, I can confirm that I am on the committee, and I will reassure the member opposite that regional offices are working with First Nation leadership and communities on awareness and to assure that necessary resources are in place. We're actively engaged with the Public Health Agency of Canada, other departments, and provincial and territorial counterparts to protect the health and safety of First Nations and Inuit people.
Thank you. The Honourable Member,
The Honourable Member for Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, yesterday was International Women's Day, a day to recognize the exceptional contributions of all women and an opportunity to promote and support gender equality. The theme this year was Because of You, that support advocates, activists, and other agents of change who move gender equality and women's rights forward, like an organization in my riding. Can the Minister of Status of Women and Gender Equality tell this House how we can celebrate Canada's progress towards greater equality for women and people of all genders on International Women's Day? The Honourable Minister of Status of Women. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks to the bravery of all those women who have preceded us, my colleague from Saint Laurent and myself can see their names on a ballot. We have made so much progress, especially over the past 5 years, and we have committed to doing even more.
To every step we take forward, we owe it to those who've come before us to make things better for those who will come after us.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Canada is the only member of the Five Eyes Alliance that still has not decided on Huawei's participation in the 5G network. In defense of his government's inaction, the Minister of Innovation said, and I quote, "Canada won't get bullied by any other jurisdictions." Well, Mr. Speaker, now is not the time to seek conflict with our allies. What is the PM waiting for to ban Huawei from the 5G network and to protect Canadian businesses and citizens?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are going to make sure that Canadians have access to the most beneficial 5G technology. Safety and security of our digital environment is a paramount consideration, and we will make sure that Canadians are safe and that their systems are not compromised. We are doing the work that is required to ensure that all scientific and security factors are taken into account from our allies, including the United States, officials with whom I met this morning, and all of our security agencies. Mr. Speaker, we're doing the work necessary to make sure the decision is the right one for Canadians.
Member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Mr. Speaker, indecision becomes a decision with time. The Prime Minister has failed to decide if he wants to protect the cybersecurity of Canadians by banning Huawei. Many Five Eye partners have warned us that Huawei poses a serious risk to Canadians. Just today, the U.S. sent a top official to plead with the Liberals to ban Huawei. Yet instead of working together with our most important ally, senior Liberals call them bullies. Will the Prime Minister stop name-calling, act to protect Canadians, and ban Huawei?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I really do feel compelled to straighten out the mischaracterization just presented. And in fact, there's a very robust and important discussion going on between ourselves and our allies to ensure that the decision we make in Canada's best interest takes into full account all the scientific and security factors that must be considered to ensure that we do what is right to maintain a safe and secure environment for Canadians and that we keep them safe.
The Honourable Member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces put their lives on the line to protect us every day. In the event of a pandemic, they may be on the front line as a response. They'll be at a heightened risk of getting sick. They need to know we have their backs with the proper resources like a functioning hospital. Construction on the hospital at Garrison Betawawa has been behind for 2 years, 2 years late under construction. China built 2 in 10 days. How many more years will it take this government to build just 1?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
We take the health and safety of our members of the Canadian Armed Forces very seriously. In fact, actually, I was in Petawawa last year to look at the infrastructure needs. In fact, not only health services, we're also looking at the MFRC in Petawawa. Infrastructure is something that you need to continually invest in, and that's exactly what our defense policy is doing. Mr. Speaker, if the previous government had started investing into infrastructure, we wouldn't be in this situation. And that's why we're going to be making sure that our Canadian Armed Forces have all the tools necessary. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
The Minister, because the Liberals have cut infrastructure funding by $247 million to the Canadian Armed Forces. Now, a recent internal audit warned electrical outages, sewer backups on bases are threatening operations and putting the health and safety of our troops at risk. It appears, Mr. Speaker, that the Liberals can't even manage an outhouse, and they expect us to trust them to buy new ships and fighter jets. Will the Minister admit and agree with me that he is literally up to his knees in it this time?
Honourable Minister.
That the member opposite brought this up because the infrastructure spending that he's talking about, he was the Parliamentary Secretary of National Defence when they actually didn't invest in infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. This is why we're actually investing in our MFRCs, our health services, and making sure, in fact, actually, when it comes to our operational needs, we're making the right investments, Mr. Speaker, when the money is there to take care of our Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Montarville. Mr. Speaker, Europe has now been seriously affected by the coronavirus epidemic. There are 7,000 cases in Italy, 1,000 in France and Germany. The government can no longer settle for targeted security measures involving people coming in from a handful of countries. The crisis, Mr. Speaker, is now global, and Quebecers are getting the impression that the government is managing this on a case-by-case basis. What is the government's full contingency plan now that travelers and citizens from all over are at risk of being carriers of the coronavirus? The Honourable Minister of Health.
The Member of Parliament for his question and observation that we've now found the coronavirus in 102 countries globally, and Canada is no different. We have just over 70 cases here in Canada. That's why it was so great to sit down with Minister McCann last week in Montreal to talk about Montreal's preparedness plan and Quebec's preparedness plan. I'm very confident in the work that the provinces and territories are doing, and I'd like to thank particularly Minister McCann for a very good discussion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Avignon, Lamitis, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, on Friday, travellers at the Montreal Trudeau Airport were complaining that no tests were being conducted on passengers coming in from higher risk zones. Some travellers even said that the airport was like a veritable sieve. The public has to be protected against a spread. The government must give clear direction in order to ensure that no positive cases get in. Will the government make sure that all coronavirus screening measures will take place at all border crosses, starting with the airports? The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the hardworking men and women of both CBSA and the Public Health Agency of Canada who have been working together so diligently for several months to make sure that we can support the health of Canadians both as they come back home and to support the health of international travelers. Mr. Speaker, this is a rapidly evolving situation. We will make sure that the people that are doing this hard work for us are recognized for that work, are supported in that work, and that they are an integral part in making sure that we protect the health and safety of Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to office space modernization, the table's been set for Liberal ministers while humble civil servants get the scraps. In the last 4.5 years, Liberals have spent over $1.6 million improving their own offices. Recently, we learned that Public Services and Procurement Canada missed their office space modernization goal for public servants by 50%. Will the minister inform her cabinet colleagues that they are cut off from further office renovations?
The Honourable Minister of Public Services.
Mr. Speaker, as part of its routine management of federal real property, Public Services and Procurement Canada led an initiative to identify ministerial offices across government in need of refurbishment. This initiative addressed spaces that required modest, cost-effective repairs during the 2019 recess period and general election. These routine projects are done following Treasury Board policies and enable employees to work in functional, up-to-date workspaces.
The Honourable Member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
Well, when it comes to setting goals, these Liberals are all talk. They set a goal for office space modernization, but in the department's own explanation as to why they fell short, they admitted they weren't funding their own goals. While Liberals are redecorating their offices, our hard-working public servants go without basic improvements to theirs. Will the minister cancel all vanity office projects for her colleagues and redirect those resources to where they are most needed?
Hear, hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Member for her questions. I want to reiterate that these are routine projects. They are done following Treasury Board policies that were followed closely, and they are enabling employees to continue their important work for the people of Canada in functional office space.
The member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, while the Chinese ambassador to Canada continues to absurdly label Uyghur persecution fake news, the U.S. Holocaust Museum has now officially labeled the Chinese government's persecution of Uyghurs as crimes against humanity. Now, this designation opens the door for an international legal response. So aside from talking about it and expressing concern, is the government contemplating a concrete legal response to this atrocity, supporting international legal action, recognizing these as crimes against humanity, or imposing Magnitsky sanctions against those responsible?
Good question. The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his very important question. We are deeply concerned by the human rights situation faced by the Uyghur and other minorities in China. This is an issue, Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear, our government has raised directly with the Chinese. Canada has also repeatedly voiced its concern at the United Nations Human Rights Council. We continue to call on the Chinese government to ensure that human rights of its people, including the freedom of religion, are fully respected. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Mississauga Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, violence erupted on the fringes of demonstrations in the Indian capital of Delhi. At least 50 people lost their lives and hundreds more were injured. One of the elements that caused the tensions was the Citizenship Amendment Act that was recently adopted by the Indian government. This law has many in my community and many Canadians across the country concerned. Could the Minister of Foreign Affairs update the House on Canada's engagement with India on this issue?
Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the member from Mississauga Lakeshore for his work and his important question, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to express our condolences to the families and friends of those who have lost their lives. Last week, I did speak with the Indian Foreign Minister to directly raise our concern over the violences that have been taking place. In that conversation, I highlighted the importance of a path towards peaceful and productive dialogue. We will continue to follow the situation closely and to stress the importance, Mr. Speaker, of upholding the rights of all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Niagara Falls.
Mr. Speaker, a new green light law in New York State will now prevent those residents from enrolling in trusted traveler programs like Global Entry, FAST, Nexus, or Sentry. This is very troubling for Niagara Falls and for the region of Niagara. We benefit tremendously from these programs, which support the flow of people and goods crossing our borders. With the busy summer tourism season quickly approaching, this is an issue we need resolved and resolved soon. Has the Foreign Minister spoken to his American counterparts to express Canadian concerns about these changes that are now impacting the trusted traveller programs?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Speaker, I'd like to assure the member opposite that we work very, very closely with our American counterparts, including those in the Customs Border Patrol and in their new rules. We are absolutely committed to maintaining the integrity and security of our borders and at the same time facilitating the movement of people between our borders. This issue has not been at this point in time raised with them, but I'll be happy to enter into that discussion on your behalf.
The member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, the date is quickly approaching for the World Trade Organization's decision on Australia's request to review Canada's excise tax exemption for 100% Canadian wines. If $39 million per year in new taxes for our wineries weren't bad enough, I'm now hearing from local wineries that this will set the industry back 15 years, and banks are starting to call, inquiring how they're going to deal with this potential new expense.
Wow.
When will this government stand up for our farm wineries and come to a solution and give them more certainty for the future?
Good question. Good question.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member opposite for her advocacy. As the member may know, the minister did meet very recently with leaders of the wine industry, and we did that because we very much believe that this industry brings to Canada an incredible contribution, Mr. Speaker, to our reputation as a world-class agricultural producer. We've been working very hard in order to resolve the dispute with Australia, and I'd like to assure the member opposite that our government will continue to stand up for the Canadian workers and defend the interest of the wine industry in Canada.
Honourable member for Red Deer Mountain View.
Mr. Speaker, this week a needle exchange program is to begin at the Bowden Institution. This program gives needles to prisoners so they can consume illicit drugs in their cells, all with the promise that they won't misuse the needles. Prison guards are very concerned. In fact, the Union of Canadian Correctional Officers wasn't even consulted. When will the Minister of Public Safety act to protect the safety of those on the front lines?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and allow me to reassure you that prevention and treatment of infectious diseases within correctional institutions protects not only the federal offender population, but also corrections personnel and the Canadian public. Mr. Speaker, job number one is the safety and security of all concerned, and Correction Services Canada conducts a thorough risk assessment before any inmate is approved to participate in this program, and in every case, appropriate safeguards are put in place to ensure that needles are safely stored, accounted for at all times, and we are looking after the security and safety of our inmates and our corrections workers.
The Honourable Member for Nickel Belt.
Mr. Speaker, last week our government announced a $3.6 million investment in 2 Community Futures Development Corporation projects in communities in North Claybelt. For more than 30 years in North Claybelt, we have been helping local businesses grow their business and the community strengthen their economy. Can the Minister of Economic Development tell us more about this significant investment? The Honourable Member for Economic Development. I'd like to thank my colleague from Nickel Belt for his excellent question. We know that entrepreneurs drive the economy of Northern Ontario, and we are proud to support the CFDC's projects and have been so since 2016 that has helped more than 185 local businesses create or maintain more than 221 jobs in the region. We are happy to give our future leaders the opportunities in Northern Ontario.
Mr. Speaker, the coronavirus is already hurting the economy, and we are facing the possibility of a global economic downturn. Canadians are counting on this government to deliver a stimulus and job creation strategy. We need to invest in new infrastructure, renewable energy, public transit, home retrofits to create jobs all across the country. The Liberals have the chance to show that they will help workers and the planet, not just big corporations. Will this government invest in the sustainable jobs that Canadian needs right now?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the short answer to the question is yes. With respect to the coronavirus, I'll let the honourable member know that our priority remains making sure that our public health system can provide world-class services, and we will have support announced in the near future for those who have to self-isolate. I would invite the honourable member to take a look at the infrastructure plan that we put forward, which is seeing tens or hundreds of billions of dollars towards projects that are actually going to create jobs in our communities and leave our communities strengthened as a result. I would be happy to carry this conversation on in more detail with the honourable member at her leisure.
Here you are.
Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the most effective ways to stop the spread of viruses like COVID-19 is if people stay home and self-isolate when they're sick. But for many low-wage workers and contractors, missing work is simply not an option. The loss of just a few $100s could mean not feeding their families or potential homelessness. Will the government extend financial support to all workers who must self-isolate for public safety reasons? And will that commitment include workers who do not pay into EI or are not EI eligible?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Green member for that very important question. We know that we must support Canadians who may not be able to work because of illness or quarantine. People should not be penalized for acting to support their own health and the health of their neighbours. We have already reduced the EI waiting period from 2 weeks to 1 week. We're committed to extending EI benefits to 26 weeks. We're planning for worst-case scenarios, and as the Finance Minister said last week, we will support Canadian workers in our economy.
And that's all for question period today. Before anybody gets up, I just want to thank all of you. You really actually were very good today. I just want to bring that up. Thank you. Tabling of documents. Introduction of government bills. Order. Can I have your attention, please? If you can hear my voice, please say shh. That's great. Thank you. I've just got some government business here that I've got to read, so I just wanted to make sure it's a government bill that I'm going through the list here. So I just want to make sure everybody hears what we're bringing forward so that both sides have a good idea of what's going on. Introduction of government bills. Mr. Lametti, seconded by Ms. Qualtrough, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to amend the Criminal Code Conversion Therapy. Cette motion est réputée.
This motion is carried.
Monsieur Lametti, appuyé par...
Mr. Lametti, seconded by Ms. Qualtrough, moves that this bill